This is part 2 of the lesson about past tense in Dutch. So the first lesson, the first part was about referring to moments in time in the past, and this lesson, this part 2, is about verbs in past tense. Okay, so verbs in past tense in Dutch. This is where it gets a bit complicated because the Dutch language has so many different variants about words and how they become in past tense that the only way to learn it is not by remembering a rule, because there is actually no rule about that. You just have to cram them all in your head to remember what the past tense was for a specific word. So I have some examples for you that are very common in our daily conversations in Dutch. So if you talk about working, in Dutch is werken or werken. Present tense, it's ik werk, I work. If you say ik werk in Nederland, you say I work in the Netherlands. If you're talking about past tense, last year I worked in France. Vorig jaar werkte ik in Frankrijk. So, work, werk, becomes werkte. That's the past tense of werk. There's also another form of speaking in past tense, and that is if you say, in English, you add the word have. I have worked. So, I have worked in France. Ik heb in Frankrijk gewerkt. Right? So you separate the words as well. So, heb and gewerkt are not next to each other per se. I place in France in between. Ik heb in Frankrijk gewerkt. So another example is to live somewhere. There's a specific word for that. In English, it's the word live, which also means to be alive. But in English, it also means to live somewhere. And there is a specific word for that in Dutch, which is wonen. Ik woon in Nederland means I live in the Netherlands. Past tense of that. Last year, I lived in Belgium. Vorig jaar woonde ik in België. I have also lived in Germany. Ik heb ook gewoond in Duitsland. So you have added heb gewoond. So you add heb, but also a GE before the verb. Heb gewoond. Same as with working. Ik heb gewerkt. I have worked. To be alive is in Dutch leven. Ik leef. I live. I have lived, or I lived in past. Let's do that first. I lived is leefde. I lived, very simple. And if you want to say I have lived, is ik heb geleefd. Ik heb geleefd als een rijke man. I lived as a rich man. All right. So these are one type of past tense words. There's also other ones that are much more common. They have much more examples, but they cannot be that easily remembered by a rule. So, for instance, to watch is kijken. Ik kijk naar de camera. I look at the camera. Right? To look and to watch in Dutch is the same word. That is kijken. Ik keek naar iets anders. I looked at something else. That is the word keek. So, present tense, kijk. Past tense, keek. And have looked or have watched is heb gekeken. Ik heb vorige week naar een serie gekeken. I have watched a series last week. So that's the word for watching or looking. Another example is to stay. Blijven. Stay here. Blijf hier. That is present tense. If you say I stayed a week, that is ik bleef een week. So blijf in present tense, ik blijf. In past tense, ik bleef. Blijf, bleef. Lopen is walking. Ik loop, ik liep. So present tense is loop, past tense is liep. I walked outside. Ik liep buiten. I have walked outside. Ik heb buiten gelopen. That is, heb gelopen. Another example, to understand, meaning you're able to hear, you're able to understand. That is, verstaan. Ik versta jou. I understand you. Ik verstond hem niet means I didn't understand him. And heb verstaan, that is I have understood. So, ik heb dit nog nooit verstaan. I have never understood this. And the final example I want to give you is sleeping, slapen in Dutch. Ik slaap means I sleep. And in the past tense, yesterday I slept on the couch. Gisteren sliep ik op de bank. And you can say, ik heb op de bank geslapen. I have slept on the couch. Alright, those are the examples that I wanted to give you. There are so much more examples that I could give you, but this lesson would become too long and too boring maybe, so I'll cut it off here. In the next lessons, you will probably hear many more examples of words in the past tense, so you will step by step learn more and more of those words. So, rewatch this video again to remember all the examples and keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson. If this lesson was helpful, please give it a like and please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss a single lesson. Also, if you want to develop your Dutch proficiency even faster, reach out to me for private lessons by sending me a DM or an email. Tot ziens!